Have you ever looked up at the sky and wondered, how did all of this begin? How did Earth, a lifeless rock billions of years ago, become home to such a stunning variety of life, including you and me? Before humans, before dinosaurs, even before the tiniest bacteria, there was a moment when something amazing happened. Life began. But how? Was it a random spark? A divine plan? A slow chemical dance over millions of years? Scientists have spent decades trying to unlock this mystery. What they've discovered is a fascinating story of fire and water, lightning and molecules, chaos and creation. From bubbling oceans to invisible cells, from accidents of nature to the birth of intelligence, it's a journey that takes us deep into the past. So, buckle up, because we're about to explore one of the greatest questions ever asked: how did life begin on Earth? 1. About a famous experiment in 1953 by scientists Stanley Miller and Harold Urey provided strong support for this theory. They recreated early Earth conditions in a lab and passed electric sparks through a mixture of gases. Within a week, they found that amino acids had formed, proving that organic molecules could arise from non-living matter under the right conditions. These molecules likely accumulated over millions of years in the oceans. Some formed proteins, nucleic acids, and other essential components of life. Eventually, these components began to organize into more stable and structured systems. While these early substances were not alive, they represented the first major step toward life, showing how non-living chemicals could evolve into something more. Chemical evolution laid the foundation for the appearance of the first living cell. Now that basic organic molecules like amino acids and proteins had formed, the next big question was: how did these non-living chemicals become something alive? The answer lies in the formation of the first cell, a simple but groundbreaking step in the origin of life. Scientists believe once the first living cell came into existence, the story of life entered a new chapter: evolution. This tiny, simple cell began to reproduce, and with every new generation, small changes occurred. Some of these changes, or mutations, were random. But some of them gave certain cells an advantage, making them more likely to survive, grow, and reproduce. Over millions of years, these tiny advantages added up, and life slowly became more complex. Through a process called natural selection, the traits that helped organisms survive in their environments were passed on to future generations. This is the driving force behind evolution. Slowly, single-celled organisms evolved into more advanced forms, cells with a nucleus, then multi-celled organisms, and eventually into plants, fungi, and animals. This evolutionary journey took billions of years. At first, all life existed in the oceans. But as some organisms adapted to changing conditions, they developed new features, such as the ability to breathe oxygen, move, or respond to their surroundings. Some even formed symbiotic relationships, where different types of cells worked together, forming the first complex life forms. One of the most remarkable outcomes of evolution was the incredible diversity of life that developed. From microscopic bacteria to giant marine reptiles, and eventually to birds, mammals, and humans, all life can be traced back to that first simple cell. Evolution didn't happen overnight. It was a slow, continuous process shaped by nature, environment, and chance. But it transformed Earth from a lifeless planet into one bursting with life. 5 For billions of years, all life on Earth existed only in water. The oceans were the cradle of life, where the first cells, plants, and simple animals developed and evolved. But eventually, some forms of life began to make a remarkable move: they started to adapt to life on land. This transition didn't happen overnight. It began with simple plants, like algae, growing near the shores. Over time, these plants evolved to survive without being fully submerged in water. They developed roots, leaves, and the ability to take in sunlight and carbon dioxide from the air. These land plants helped create oxygen and formed the first ecosystems on land. Soon after, small animals, likely similar to today's insects or worms, followed. Some fish evolved into amphibians, creatures that could live both in water and on land. Their fins slowly turned into limbs, allowing them to crawl onto dry ground. This was a major turning point in evolution. The move from water to land opened up new possibilities for life. Forests, deserts, and grasslands began to form, and life began to diversify even more. Earth was no longer just a water world, it had become a planet full of thriving, land-based ecosystems. After billions of years of evolution, the most intelligent and complex life form on Earth finally appeared: humans. Our story began around 200,000 years ago in Africa, when early humans, known as Homo sapiens, evolved from earlier primates. What made humans different was not just their bodies, but their minds. They could think deeply, communicate through language, and solve problems together. Over time, humans spread across the planet, building tools, discovering fire, forming societies, and creating cultures. They learned to farm, write, and explore the stars. In a short time, humans went from cave dwellers to space travelers. It's amazing to think that every person alive today is part of a chain that started with a single living cell in the ocean. From simple chemicals to intelligent life, the journey of life on Earth is a story of transformation, survival, and endless curiosity. The story of life on Earth isn't just about how it began, it's about how it changed. After the first cell appeared, life didn't stay simple for long. Over billions of years, life evolved through a powerful process called biological evolution. This revolution wasn't loud or sudden, it happened slowly, generation after generation. Tiny changes in genes, known as mutations, helped organisms adapt to their environment. Those that survived passed their successful traits to their offspring. This is known as natural selection, the driving force behind evolution. From simple bacteria came more complex forms: plants, insects, fish, and eventually mammals. Some creatures developed eyes to see, others developed wings to fly. Life spread across every corner of the planet, from the deepest oceans to the highest mountains. Fossils show us this amazing journey. We can trace how fish developed into amphibians, how reptiles evolved into birds, and how early mammals gave rise to humans. The revolution of life is not over. Evolution continues today, silently shaping every living being. Antibiotic-resistant bacteria, climate-adapting species, and even changes in humans show us that evolution never sleeps. This quiet, powerful revolution has created the diversity. As we look back on Earth's ancient past, we must also look forward to the future generations. Every living thing alive today is the result of millions of years of evolution. But what comes next? Humans now shape the planet more than any other species ever has. We build cities, create technology, and even explore other planets. But with great power comes great responsibility. The future of life on Earth and beyond may depend on the decisions we make today. Will future generations live in harmony with nature? Or will pollution, climate change, and resource loss endanger life as we know it? The answers are not written in stone, they depend on us. We are still evolving. Not just biologically, but socially and intellectually. Future humans might have longer lifespans, smarter technologies, or even explore space as a new home. But evolution doesn't guarantee progress, it only rewards survival and adaptation. What legacy will we leave behind? Will we be remembered as a generation that protected the Earth or as one that let it fade? Each child born into this world carries the story of life forward. It's up to us to make sure that story continues, filled with hope, knowledge, and life. The future is not just a time, it is a responsibility.